Chapter 5. I have been at many bedsides of many different dying people. I have had gentle and profound conversations. I have listened and I have sat in silence, and then I have gone away. Mother is still calm and peaceful. She is in control, and I make very few decisions. Today she feels more unwell and is sleeping most of the time. She is yellow and weak. She says if she can lift herself up onto her elbows to take her pills, the correct dosage, she feels good. Today she can't sit up on her own. Her body is leaving her, and her mind is not. I don't want this to take a long time, she said the other day. I want it to be quick. I don't know what to expect. What are the symptoms and what will happen? I told her I don't know. I told her cancer makes you very tired, and she said that that was true. I can't leave this situation. I can't do the soul midwife stuff like I do with other people with my own mother. Mandy said I was walking a fine line between carer and mourner. Mum knows me so well, and I know her. I am bound to be utterly honest with her, and that is quite a challenge. This honesty is about stating my needs too, and being vulnerable. I have no needs when I am sitting with other people. It's not about me, and at the end of it, I can leave and go home. I can leave it all and recover my equilibrium and go back again for the next time, refreshed and composed. I don't have any answers when I am sitting with someone, and that never matters. I have time and love, and I listen and hear what is being said on many different levels. I don't always know the people I sit with. I am a stranger, and they can tell me anything they want. If they tell me things that are not true, I won't know. It never matters what I'm told when I sit with someone. I am told the things that need to be said, and it's not only the words that communicate, it is the body, the room, the voice, the eyes, and the air around us. With Mum, I can't leave it and take it up a few days later. I am her daughter, and I struggle as I sit with her. She was once a young mother and knew me long before I knew her. What are my needs? She asks, and I find it difficult to tell her. I need to be silent. I need a place to go, to be completely detached from here. And I need people to stop coming round and stop calling, and I need all this to stop. I need not to have needs. It's too personal, and it makes me feel ashamed. I need to sleep. I need to have a place in the world and to feel that I am not dying too. I can't earn anything while I'm here. I have work to do. I have things I should have finished at home. I need someone to take it all that away from me, and I need the rest of the world to be put on hold, like my world is, until I can come back. That is what I do now. This is what I do now. I live in my mother's house and do whatever is needed for her care and her peace of mind. I am watching her fade and die, and I note that this week she can move less than last week. I know her face almost as if it were my own. I know what she likes and dislikes. I can tell when the air around her is wrong and disturbing her soul. 40 years ago, she used to pack enough food for 2 weeks into 4 little suitcases and get 4 little children ready and go on ahead of my father by plane to Formentera, where my father's father and stepmother had a villa, for our summer holidays. My father followed later when he had finished his work at the BBC in London, bringing more heavy bags filled with food, fuel, string, candles, and other necessities. She was so beautiful, so energetic, so brilliantly capable. She had long black hair, blue eyes, and a lovely smile that made people take notice. She was also angry and fierce and could frighten us with her sadness. I am here day and night with the same lady, my mother, no longer angry and no longer frightening me. She is now yellow, jaundiced and old. Her hair, once it stopped being black and long, became white and short, like a Mr. Whippy ice cream. Everyone remarked on it. Heavy, white, wavy hair. Now it is cut short, close to her head, to make her more comfortable in bed. It suits her, and she looks like a strange old Mia Farrow. She is no longer full of energy. She can't even walk to the end of her bed on her own. But her mind is still fierce. She knows what is going on. She is in charge of this house, and she is still brilliantly capable. I rubbed thick, beautiful cream into her arms and legs tonight, and I felt how thin she is. The strongest part of her body are her bones. It seemed to me that she is wearing her flesh, her muscles and skin over her bones like pajamas that are too big. There is no muscle tone left. All is soft and wasted. I felt I was rubbing cream into her bones through the skin, and the skin was of little practical use anymore. It was her bones that were standing her up when she gets out of bed, her bones that are taking the strain of letting her rise herself on her elbows to take her medicine, her bones that were keeping her going. My chest is feeling heavy these days. I think my body is getting ready to miss her. I don't want to go there yet, ever, and I am watching and waiting with her at home, in tune with her breath and her soul, and I am not grieving, nor am I crying. It is difficult to answer people who ask me how I am. I don't want them to ask me because I don't want to go there. But my chest is feeling heavy, and if I sit quietly and locate this heaviness, it is my heart. Time for all that later, I say to myself. Now is not the time. She is still alive and her life needs attention. When it is all over, I want to go away on my own and spend time in a hut in a wood so that no one can see my grief. I am a soul midwife. I am not weak. I am very afraid of this time of grief, and I don't want to do it again. I didn't want to do it when Steve died. He died while I was on the way to the hospice, and I was new to the whole world of dying then. A nurse and the chaplain were waiting for me outside the doors of the hospice, and the chaplain took my hand and brought me to his bedside. Steve showed me how to die and gave me a job to do. It is because of him that I became a soul midwife. He showed me how to love too. But on the day he died, when I was rushing through heavy traffic on my way to the hospice, I was not thinking of love or dying or jobs or of anything at all, except that they had called me and told me to hurry. My mother had called earlier that morning and asked if she should come and spend time with me that day, and I said no, because something was making me want to be disengaged from everything and everyone. I told her I just want to drift. When the call from the hospice came, I was on the phone to a friend, and I knew the call waiting signal was the hospice. I told her the hospice was trying to get through, and replayed their message. "You had better come in now, but you may be too late by the time you arrive," was the message. It did not take me long to drive to the hospice, but when I got there and saw a nurse waiting for me outside and the chaplain, I knew that Steve had died, and I had missed it. I had missed it by 10 minutes. Nothing could bring him back. I didn't know he would die that morning, though now I would be better able to read the signs of active dying. 9 years later, sitting with Alan as he approached his death, I knew what was happening. With Alan, the dying was both familiar and unfamiliar. Familiar because by then I had witnessed many deaths as a soul midwife, and unfamiliar because this was Alan, my husband, and I was having to let him go too. These 10 minutes that I missed with Steve dying when I was in my car on my way to him became something I looked for with people I worked with later on as I trained to understand soul midwifery. If I could, I would be there for the last 10 minutes so that I could have some idea of how Steve may have gone. I felt he should have waited for me. He should not have gone. But he had gone, and there was nothing I could do. They had put flowers on his pillow and drawn the curtains round his bed. Steve was in a ward. The other patients in their beds may or may not have known that the curtains were drawn and the flowers put on the pillows of the just died. It was low-key and uncomplicated. I had noticed the night before, as I sat with Steve, that the old man opposite had flowers on his pillow, and I had thought it a gentle touch. He would have just died, which I didn't know at the time, and that was why so many of his family were standing around quietly and touching his hands. Now that Steve had flowers on his pillow, I thought, that is what they do here when someone dies. It is lovely. I put toy aeroplanes on Alan's pillows at his death, not flowers. There were no flowers in the room, only his favourite toy planes. After Steve's death, I did not want to cry, and I did not want to be in this position. How dare Steve die and leave me? I was angry, and in a fierce attempt to avoid the pain that was gathering like a tornado around me, I gave all the things I had of his away, and removed everything from my house that reminded me of what I had lost. I gave all the things of his that I was carrying in my car to his sister. Steve lived in a little house an hour away from me, but had moved in with me when his illness became too difficult to be alone. It was from my house he went to and from the hospital, and eventually to the hospice. When I got the call saying a place was there for him in the hospice, I packed Steve into the car with pillows and a bag. He was too thin and weak to sit up alone. The sat-nav took us to the car park of the police station, not the hospice, and we thought that was very funny. Alan insisted on walking to the car the night I took him to the hospice. I have a photo of him walking across the garden to the gate late one October night, the security light shining above his head like a halo. He was wearing his old leather sandals. I took those old leather sandals from his room a week later after his death. They have his footprints deep in them. "I won't be back here," he said as we drove away that night to the hospice. "Nonsense," I said. "Of course you will. You walk to the car. There is still time." It is very hard to know what is a good idea and what is not when someone is suffering from a terminal condition. Mother has had a stent fitted to help her jaundice, with a drainage bag for the bile attached to her thin, weak leg with some Velcro. It has helped her colour, and it has given her more strength to walk to the next room and back. That is true. But it has given her a terrible pain in her side, and it is horrid carrying a bag full of nasty stuff around. The experience in the hospital this time has been very distressing. It took a long time to get her dressed and ready and into the car to drive the half hour to the hospital. Being a trooper, Mother just gets on with it. Leaving Mother at the hospital on the ward was like leaving a slightly anxious but philosophical child in a new boarding school, and going back later to take the child home to find that it is traumatized, subdued, and very unhappy. Recently, Alexia and I took her back to the hospital for the day to have the line and bag removed. We had to promise that even if we were threatened with prison, we would bring her home at the end of that day. Alexia called ahead to have a bed provided for her grandmother, so that all the waiting in corridors, in waiting areas, and in recovery spaces was done in a proper bed with wheels. And blankets. Mum is so weak, so full of cancer, so old and thin, no one could expect her to sit up in a wheelchair more than 15 minutes. Alexia also asked for permission to stay by her grandmother in the recovery and not to leave her alone ever, and this was a great comfort to Mum. Mother's friend took me and Mum to the hospital for this appointment. We turned out of the village of Petworth onto the road to Chichester and fell in behind a hearse. There is only one road to Chichester from Petworth. It is a good 10 miles long. We were on it and behind a hearse. We followed the hearse in uneasy silence, each wondering if the others had noticed it, and no one knowing quite what to say. It was when both the hearse and we turned off to take a shortcut through the village called Magdalen that we began to laugh. "Bet you were wondering if I had noticed that," said Mum. "I don't know if you're allowed to overtake hearses," said her friend. Today, another day, and Mother's face is no longer jaundiced. It is grey, and her eyes have that intense look of someone aware, without words, that everything is leaving them. Today she has been attached to her syringe driver and is in bed asleep and snoring. The syringe driver delivers morphine in regular shots through a syringe into her arm to help her with the pain. It is battery driven, it is topped up by the Macmillan nurses, and the dose can be increased or decreased depending on how Mum is. There are drugs in there too to combat both the dreadful anxiety that comes over her from time to time and the sickness that makes her feel so wretched. She is permanently downstairs in her hospital bed in the dining room now. She has not been able to go upstairs for the last 3 weeks. Her pain last night was excruciating. It flared up half an hour after the Macmillan office closed, and I was left with Mother in so much distress she couldn't breathe. It was 9 o'clock. I tried to still her as she was shaking with pain, but I couldn't. I held her close, and she did not stop, not even a little. She needed the loo, but could not move with the pain. I gave her medicine, and I called a friend. I called 111. I gave her more medicine. I tried to give her pillows to put over the pain. I put the kettle on for me. I got her onto and then off the commode with huge difficulty, feeling that I was hurting her, but more aware that if I didn't at least try, she would miss and wee on the floor, the bed, herself, like she did the night before, when she couldn't find the commode in the dark, and she would feel horrified and ashamed of her weakness. By midnight, and many calls to the 111 doctors, she settled and felt she could sleep. I felt I could not sleep, not now, not ever, and I was not sure where I would sit for the rest of the night, down here on the chair that extends out like a bed, on which I have slept in the past, or upstairs in the bed that I have made my own. Dying takes such a long time. Mother is dying, day by day, hour by hour. The time passes slowly, and still she is here. The signs are telling us that she is entering another phase, which she does, only to linger in it in order to enter another phase further down the line. It seems I have been here for a very long time, in her house, watching and waiting and assisting her dying. The world goes on outside, and I have lost interest in it, and lost my curiosity about what is happening for anyone else. Here, my mother's calm and graceful tolerance for all that is happening to her and around her has moved into agitation and anger. Her syringe driver is the cause of all this distress. It is that which is making her so confused and zombie-like, she says. "Take the syringe driver away," she says with fury. "It is not my wish to be treated like this. Take the syringe driver away or I will pull it out. I don't know who these people in my house are, and they bewilder me. No one asks me what I want," she says. "They talk over me and I will not have it." This evening, she was sitting in the conservatory with Alexia and my cousin's son, and the time it took me to go to the railway station 6 miles away and back, Alexia had dealt with her grandmother's anger so huge and powerful it had left her shocked. When I returned, Alexia had got her furious grandmother into bed and was praying with her for the anger to be removed from her by Jesus. My mother's temper is notorious. As children we lived in fear of it. As a devout Catholic, praying is important to Mum, and in times of stress and fear, it is a good way to help her. When I arrived back from the station, the Macmillan nurses were here, and her medication in the syringe driver had been increased. She was in bed and asleep, with a deep frown between her eyebrows. Alexia had absorbed the fury and had dispersed it with the help of Jesus, and all of us needed a cup of tea.